All right, so let's talk about muscles. There's three types of muscle tissues. The first one is skeletal. The second one is cardiac. And the third one is smooth muscle tissue. Any muscle tissue generates a force only by contracting its cells. The mechanisms by which one's muscle cells contract differ between the three types of tissue and are described below. Muscles contract has four possible functions: body movement, stabilization of body position, movement of balance through the body, generating heat to maintain body temperature. Now, skeletal muscles are voluntary muscle tissue. They are consciously controlled. Skeletal muscles connect one bone to another. The muscles do not attach directly to the bone, but instead is attached via a tendon. A tendon connects a muscle to a bone. A ligament connects a bone to a bone. Typically, a muscle stretches across a joint. The muscle origin is on the larger bone, which remains relatively stationary, and its insertion is on the smaller bone, which moves relative to the larger bone. Upon contraction of the muscles, muscles work in groups. The agonist, the muscle responsible for the movement, contracts, while the second muscle, the antagonist, stretches. When the antagonist contracts, the bone moves in the lower position. Contractions of skeletal muscles may squeeze blood and lymph vessels, aiding circulation. Contraction of a skeletal muscle produces large amounts of heat, shivering controlled by the hypothalamus upon stimulation by receptors of the skin and spinal, and basically those kind of things. So let's talk about physiology. The smallest functional unit of a skeletal muscle is the sarcomere. This thing here is the sarcomere. Okay. A sarcomere is composed of many strands of two protein filaments, the thick and thin filament, laid side by side from a cylindrical segment. Sarcomeres are positioned end to end to form myofibrils. So these things are myofibrils. Each myofibril is surrounded by the specialized endoplasmic reticulum of the muscle cell called the sacroplasmic reticulum. This thing here, sacroplasmic reticulum. The lumen of the sacroplasmic reticulum is filled with calcium ions for reasons that shall become clear shortly. Lodging between the myofibrils are mitochondria and many nuclei. Skeletal muscles is multinucleate. A modified membrane called the sacromilia wraps several myofibrils together to form a muscle or muscle fiber. Thick filaments of sarcomere is made of protein myosin. Several long myosin molecules are important. Myosin and actin work together, sliding along each other to create the contractional force of the skeletal muscle. Each myosin head crawl along the actin in a 5-stage cycle. First, tropomyosin covers an average of site on the actin, preventing the myosin head from binding. You have to know that the importance of calcium in muscle contraction, and be familiar with the sacroplasmic tubule. So, a muscle contraction begins with an action potential. A neuron attaches to a muscle cell, so like this thing here, forming a neuroplasmic synapse. The action potential of the neuron releases acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. The acetylcholine activates the channels for the sacromilia of the muscles cells, creating an action potential. The action potential moves deep into the muscle tissues via small tunnels in the membrane called T-tubules. The T-tubules allow for a uniform contraction of the muscle by allowing the action potential to spread through the muscle cell more rapidly. The action potential is transferred to the sacroplasmic reticulum, which suddenly becomes permeable to calcium ions, and calcium ions begin the 5-stage cycle described.